Very quickly, and I only have a couple of minutes, I'd like to share my story. And they talked about the foundation, which I'm very proud of. In fact, do we have any students who are in the bow tie program here today? Kobe Gantz is in the bow tie program. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I thought would be better is if I just kind of told a little bit of my story. And my story, was there any 8th graders here today? Any 8th graders? There's a couple of them. See, I went to Conestoga Valley, and I lived in the city, but I went to CV. And I'll never forget my 8th grade year, I got called down to the principal's office. And when I walked into the principal's office, my mother was sitting there, and it was the principal. And I could tell she was a little worried. And the principal said to me, "Jordan, we're going to have to dismiss you from school." I said, "What?" And my mom started crying. She said, "Jordan, they told me you're selling drugs in school." The principal said, "Obviously this isn't acceptable here. We're going to have to dismiss you and all the things that are going to come with that." And I had to leave school, and that day I'll never forget leaving the building, walking out of the middle school as my mom was crying and sobbing, saying, "What did I do wrong?" And at that time, I didn't realize that the decisions that we make not only affect ourselves, but they affect other people, and oftentimes people who really care about us. How many people here really care about their parents? Right? We should all raise our hands. They gave us a life, they gave us a lot of opportunities. And when I walked out that day, I realized that I'd really hurt my mom. So I went home and I'd spent some time away from school. When I came back, you see, in 8th grade, they knew that I would start varsity as a football player and a basketball player. So I played those two sports. So every day I'd finish middle school and I'd take the bus over to the high school to work out with the high school football team. And so when I got back to school, I took the bus over to the high school, and I'm sitting in the gym. And at the time, there was a guy named Darryl Daniel. And some of the staff in here would know that name. And Darryl was at the time, he was in the NFL. He was playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he went to CV. And so Darryl had come back to the school, and I'll never forget sitting in the gym that day, and Darryl walked right over towards me. I was so excited. Imagine if a professional athlete walked in the doors right now, how excited we would be. And he came right over to me, and the first words that Darryl Daniel ever said to me was, "Boy, you're really messing up." Jeez. He doesn't even know who I am. He's going to tell me that I'm messing up. And he said, the next thing he said, which was pretty important, he says, "I don't care what's happened in the past. What matters to me is what happens from this day going forward." And one of the most gratifying times of my life, and one of the most proudest moments, I went on to college, and I'll tell you a little bit about it, but I finished undergrad and graduate school, and the first person who was there to hug me was Darryl Daniels when I came off of that stage. And the thing that I'm telling you is that I don't know where you guys are at, and we're all at different stages. But the fact of the matter is in 8th grade, I was heading down a path that was leading me nowhere. And so when I start to look back and I understand why I started making the decisions that I made, and I realized why, I started wanting to get hanging out with those kids, and why sometimes I would treat other students a certain way, it really came down to I was looking for acceptance. I wasn't cool. I thought I was. And the other thing that's scary to me is when I look back at really my 3 main friends at that time and where they are right now today. One of them's in jail, and 2 of them are scrounging around trying to get jobs. The fact of the matter is this: it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. I never ever had my own room until I got to college. And the misconception about me oftentimes is that, oh, because I went to CV, I had things made. I'll never forget, I'm very fortunate right now, okay? And at 25, I bought my first car. I don't know if you guys ever heard of a Jaguar before. I bought a brand new Jaguar, and I bought a house in D.C., and I bought a condo here in Lancaster. I was able to buy these things, right? And I thought that was so great, so cool. But the reason is because I remember in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, when a good meal was lettuce, and I'd put ketchup on it because I thought that that's what dressing was. I thought ketchup was a dressing. But what my point in saying that is it doesn't matter where you're at right now. Judge Workman touched on it. It's where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And you don't have to answer that question to me today. All I want you to do is answer that question to yourself. Because when I started hanging out with Darryl in 8th grade, we started setting little goals. Okay, when I think about an author of a book, we've all read a book before. Oftentimes the ending of the book is the good part, right? That's the part when the surprise comes out or whatever it is. But what an author does is he thinks about the end first, and then he goes back in and he fills in the chapters along the way. What I want each of you to do is think about the end right now. Think about what it looks like when you're 25 years old, or better yet, when you're 18 years old. And now what you've got to do, you say, well, I'm only 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, 11th grade. I'm not there yet. But you got to fill in those chapters in order to get you there.